Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm just going to read the Safe Ride Home order, and we can get started with the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee for May 2021. So due to the Safe Ride Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee are participating virtually. All members will vote by roll call. A member will be recognized, at which time the member will state his or her vote. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Sharon.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Good morning again, everyone. Thanks for being here today. We have a little bit of an echo. If you want to put your computers on mute until you're speaking. Thank you. First of all, minutes from the April meeting. Did everyone get a chance to review those? And are there any corrections or comments on those? Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I saw John's hand first.
Okay. And
Greg second. Okay. Thank
very
you.
well written.
Give all credit to Matthew for that, collecting all of our conversation and putting it back out in a concise form. Thank you, Matthew.
Yes. Very, very well done. Thank you, Matt.
Of course. So we'll go through. I'll do the roll call. We'll get the votes on that. So
Okay.
Keith, is that a thumbs up? All right.
Yep.
Greg made the second. John made the motion. Michael. No, Michael, you there?
What do you need? Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Was that a yes on the minutes?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right.
Absolutely.
Hey, Matthew, this is Judy. I'm here on the phone.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. We're just finishing up one action item, and we'll get back to you in just a second here.
That's fine, thanks.
Donna, how do you vote on the minutes? Donna, can you hear us?
She may be having some trouble. I see she's now here twice.
Oh, I see that. Okay. Well, let's move on. Sharon?
Approve.
Okay. AJ?
Approve.
Okay. So that motion passes.
Great. Thank you all. Was that you, Donna?
It is. My apologies. I have a little technical difficulty.
That's okay. Was that an approval?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see another call-in user. I'm not sure who that is. Judy, I'm so glad you were able to join us this morning. This is Sharon Nelson. Now, I haven't seen you in person in forever.
That's true for many of us.
Well, true enough. True enough. But I'm really excited to be able to welcome you to our meeting and recognize you for all that you have done in this community for cycling awareness, and cycling safety. You're really kind of a legend here. And of course, I'm excited for your move and happy for you, and hope this is going to be a wonderful new chapter in your active life. But really, you've done wonderful things for this community, and we're really excited to be able to recognize you. So thanks.
Thank you so much. It's been quite an adventure. I've been advocating for 50 years, and when Matthew arrived, some of those things started happening. So I will give you a report back from Oregon and the things they're doing there. So.
Oh, yes, that would be great. So I'd like
I'm looking forward to being in a real bike-friendly community.
Where exactly are you moving to?
I'm moving to Lake Oswego, which is 8 miles south of Portland, and it is a bicycle-friendly community.
Wonderful. That's exciting. So I'd like to first read a resolution that we've created recognizing you, and then I'd love for you to just share, historically where and how you got started with Winston-Salem, and maybe just a couple of things that you're really excited about seeing now that there's a lot more activity taking place around bike and pedestrian safety. And
Okay.
and then we'll let you enjoy the rest of your morning.
Well,
I'll just get
there may be
started.
background noise. The movers are packing everything up upstairs. So.
Oh, wow. As we speak.
Yeah, as
Okay.
we speak.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. So resolution of the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee of the City of Winston-Salem honoring Judy Wallace. Whereas Judy Wallace has been a leader in promoting safe and comfortable cycling and walking in Winston-Salem for several decades, and whereas Judy Wallace served on the bicycle and pedestrian committees at the state and local levels, serving as chairperson of the NCDOT committee and helping create the City of Winston-Salem committee. And whereas Judy Wallace served on the National Board of Directors for the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals from 2008 to 2013. And whereas Judy Wallace authored numerous books about cycling in Winston-Salem and North Carolina, sharing route information with residents and visitors and promoting the region as a cycling destination. And whereas Judy Wallace was instrumental in the creation of Safe Routes to School program in Winston-Salem, including the coordination of walk and bike to school efforts and the development of bicycle and pedestrian safety programs for Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools that have prepared thousands of young riders for safe cycling. And whereas Judy Wallace's leadership, vision, and dedication led to the creation of the first formal Open Streets event in North Carolina and successful Bike Month celebrations in Winston-Salem. And whereas Judy Wallace, as a member of the City of Winston-Salem Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, helped develop the City of Winston-Salem signed bike route system that still serves as the foundation for the city's bicycle facility network. And whereas Judy Wallace served as an example of the change she worked tirelessly to create by walking, cycling, and taking transit as her primary transportation options, and encouraged others to do the same. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee of the City of Winston-Salem conveys our great appreciation to Judy Wallace for her decades of service, her commitment to active transportation, and her many successes in promoting those transportation options in the City of Winston-Salem and the state of North Carolina, adopted on this, the 12th day of May, 2021.
Wow, you mentioned things I'd forgotten I had done. Thank
It's
you.
always
Thank
great
you
to have
very
other
much.
people. Oh, thank you for everything you've done.
Well,
we'll
can I
be
tell
happy
you the
to.
story about how I got started?
Please.
My then husband and I had moved back to Winston-Salem, and I took a teaching job at Summit School, which was only 2 miles from our house along Renolda Road. So I decided I should just bike to school. We only had one car. So at that time, Renolda Road was only one lane going into town. So I had to ride, at 7:30 in the morning with all the other traffic. And I learned a lot about riding out into the lane so people don't try to squeeze you off the road. And that really started my effort. I thought, well, why can't we have a bike lane here, for people to encourage people to ride? Well, of course, that never happened. But they did, when they widened it, it did make it easier because cyclists could use one lane and cars could pass in another lane. So that really got me going. And in 1976, I organized the first statewide bicycle meeting in the library at Summit School to talk about issues and what we could do. And at that time, the state had just started their bicycle program in the Department of Transportation. So that kind of got things going. Sadly, I mean, I'm glad people enjoy riding, but some people only want to ride and they don't want to help make things better for everybody. So that was the disappointment. But we have had more people come to town and get active. Amy Easter, I applaud her efforts, and her husband, Jake. So I'm so glad the committee is taking this on, and I'm sure you will move things forward. And when I come back to visit, I will be amazed at all the good things you've gotten done.
We
The
certainly
one
hope
thing
so.
that I really like that the city is doing that I have seen in several places is having high visibility crosswalks with a sign that says yield to pedestrians, because cars seem to think they have the right to do whatever they want to and don't have to pay any attention to people who are walking. So I applaud the city's efforts in that way. It will be safer for those of us who do like to walk. Yay, Matthew.
I agree. Is there any one thing that you're seeing now apart from that you really see as a mark of progress? Like or even in the past few years where you feel like, oh, finally my vision is coming to fruition? Or is there like the one thing that you'd really love to see happen that maybe needs some more momentum behind?
Well, I think we do have signed bike lanes now in some of the streets, and we have shared lane marking, which is helpful. I think the best thing COVID has done is gotten more people out on their bicycles, and I'm just really thrilled about that. I think we still need to do more with driver awareness, because many drivers still don't know what to do when they're behind a cyclist. So I know the police department the downtown bike patrol was very helpful with initiating some things regarding drivers of motor vehicles. But there's, we've come a long way, but there's still much that needs to be done in the way of education.
There is. If anyone on the committee would like to say anything, Greg, not to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to share anything in particular, please feel free. I think you're on mute, Greg. I'm sorry.
Good morning, Judy. This is Greg.
Hey, Greg. My
I've been
partner in
helping.
crime.
I've been helping Judy a little bit, trying to pack and get ready for her move. But I've known Judy for probably close to 30, 35 years, and she's mentioned so many things that she's done. As you mentioned, Sharon, she is a legend here locally as well as across the state, and we've been so fortunate to have Judy in our presence and to lead us with her thoughts and efforts in bicycling and pedestrian safety, and just being a true leader in the bicycling community. And we've been so fortunate, and I'm so appreciative of her and her efforts here locally. And she's not only is she a top-notch professional, she's a top-notch person. She's a great person, and a lot of she has a good spirit about her. And I just every time I see her and with her, I'm always smiling, and it's just been fun to work with her, and in some ways I'm a little sad to see her go, but I'm also happy for her that she can be with her daughter and grandkids and family out on the West Coast. So I wish her all the very best, and hope we get a chance to cross paths in the future and have a happy rest of your life, Judy, out on the West Coast. I hope it all goes well for you, the move and your new home in Lake Oswego. And I was just going to say, I think is that you told me that you're going to be living close to some sort of a brewery or something. On top
A
of a
wine
brewery
shop.
or a pub or something like that. I just don't want to hear any reports of public drunkenness or odd things like that. I can't send bail money from Winston-Salem out there, so just take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll be able to see you again sometime soon.
Well, I hope so. And I want to give credit to Greg, because before Matthew was here, Greg was really behind this whole effort too. And he was the first one to get me involved in working with the city on bicycle and pedestrian issues. So please pat him on the back for me too. I was very sad when he retired. I know he's doing other good things, but I missed having him in his position with the Department of Transportation in the city.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Feels like we're keeping
Can you
things
tell
in the
me who else
family.
is on the committee? Can you tell me who else is on the committee, since I can't see you all?
Sure. AJ, do you want to just introduce yourself really quickly? Who you are and
Sure, yeah. AJ Smith. I've lived in Winston for about 10 years now. Avid cyclist, and looking forward to hopefully building on some of the great work that you've laid the foundation for here.
Great, thanks.
John?
Oh, hi, Judy. This is John Gunkel. I moved to Winston-Salem probably about 5 years ago. One of the first things I found was the book that you and Ken wrote about the bike rides around Winston-Salem. And I found that just an invaluable resource, and I still use it to this day. So thanks so much for your work and efforts to promote cycling and walking in Winston-Salem.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Keith?
Good morning, Judy. My name's Keith Davis. My wife Emily and I own Fleet Feet here in town, and this is Winston-Salem's my hometown. And I remember you mentioned Ken. I bought I didn't buy. My mother bought my first bicycle from Ken Putnam when I was 5 years old. So that was the start of my cycling career. I remember it was a Raleigh BMX bike. So I can still picture it.
That must have been when he was over on Knollwood Street.
That was no, actually he was already, I believe it was Reynolda Village at that time.
Oh, really?
I'd have to go back and do some math. I need a calculator to calculate my first bike.
Yeah.
But
well, Ken has a long and varied career. So.
he most certainly does. I just want to say thank you for giving us a picture of kind of what it looks like to be a champion. And you said something just a minute ago that I'm going to make a note to go back and get the actual words, because you said many people choose to ride, or something along these lines, but not enough people get involved to make it more accessible to others. And I feel like that's just a great charge for us all, runners, cyclists, walkers. So thank you.
Exactly. Okay, good. Thank you.
And let's see, Donna. I'm going in the order you guys are on my screen, if you're wondering.
Good morning, Judy. My name is Donna Jones. I actually have a State Farm office here in Winston, and I've been a resident of Winston-Salem since 2003. And one of the things I love this environment, and thank you so much for your contribution to cycling, because that is something that is has become important to me, especially during COVID, to be able to get outside and ride. And I have enjoyed that and had an opportunity to explore some of the different areas of Winston. So thank you for your contributions. Also, congratulations on your move, and I hope you enjoy being close to your family.
Well, thank you so much, Donna.
And then Judy, Michael Hosey, I think you know, he's driving. Michael, do you want to, are you able to say anything?
Hey, Judy.
There
Hey,
he is.
Can y'all
Michael.
hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I've stopped for a moment, but yeah, I'm just so glad that just to have known you or to know you and to be a part of all the activities, cycling, and yeah, I appreciate all the past knowledge and materials that you've shared with me, and kind of the efforts that I'm doing with the cycling center and just the Safe Routes to School. And I'm just grateful, and I certainly wish you the best on the, out in Portland. And yeah, just thanks for all that you've done and continue to do.
Well, thank you. Keep up the good work with all the bike trailers and bicycles. That's an important part of the program.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you all. We have a couple of members who aren't with us right now. And I don't have names in front of me, so I'm afraid I'll forget anyone if I start reeling them off.
Sharon, I can read off the rest of the members
Perfect.
here.
Thank you.
Sure. So Scott Miller is also serves, Joshua Swift, and then Cynthia Thompson as well.
Okay, great. Well, sounds like you've got a good, diverse committee, and I applaud your efforts. We went several years without a committee, and I think you're playing a very important role in keeping the city moving in the right direction. So thank you all for doing that. And if anybody's coming out to Portland area, give me a heads up. My new email address is Judy Wallace, JUDIWALLACE, 1127@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Judy. Good luck with your move, and we'll be in touch and make sure you get a copy of this proclamation by mail once you get settled.
All right. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye. That's great. I'm glad we were able to do that. I'm glad she was able to join, even with people in her house packing right this minute. Okay, and moving on with our agenda, we had a lot packed in here today, and we may not get to all of it.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Sharon? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I wasn't sure whether I should chip in at when Judy was on the line and while we were adopting the resolution and so forth, or sending the resolution forward to the city council. But I thought maybe we would have a quick discussion. I would like to move from our committee that we work with the city of Winston-Salem, Department of Transportation and Recreation and Parks Department on naming a section of, I guess, a greenway after Judy Wallace. I think that would be an appropriate thing to do. My thought was maybe the Salem Lake Trail or Salem Creek Trail from Marketplace Mall all the way out to Salem Lake. That we would name that as the Judy Wallace Salem Creek Trail, for lack of a better definition of of a title, I guess. And so I know it's not maybe a bicycle lane or a direct route, but it is something tangible, and it's something that she was involved in as well, with some of the greenways being developed here in town as a bicycle commuting and a bicycle recreation facility. And so I'd like to at least put that out for discussion. That maybe that would be something that would maybe even be added to the resolution that we just adopted, or maybe something separate. But I wanted to at least toss that out before the thought of Judy Wallace leaving us here this morning. So wanted to see what everyone else had to say about that. And I didn't want to do that right in front of her. I thought that might be just a bit embarrassing, I guess, to do that. So, but I thought I'd like to bring that up to our committee.
Thanks, Greg. Any comments or responses to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, we have a lot of parks named after, citizens or people that have done a lot of work for the city. So I think, naming a greenway sounds like a really good idea. I serve on the Parks Commission, and I noticed the way that's normally done is they have a councilman usually send a letter basically recommending that. Then the Parks Commission would, put it to their commissioners. So I think it's a great idea.
Other comments? Greg, you opened this as a motion. John, are you seconding?
I wanted to bring it up as an idea and see if how the committee felt about it, and whether there's other possibilities out there as far as location or facilities that we can name after her. Excuse me. Or you can putting up an honorary Judy Wallace Avenue sign, as like the brown signs you see around downtown area, particularly. Put that up on Hertford Road for a period of time. I mean, maybe that's a separate or secondary thing that can be done as well. So anyway.
Matthew, do you have?
Sure. Yeah, I think that the committee could make a motion and adopt something, suggesting that we explore some kind of naming honor for Judy related to a greenway. So yeah, I think if you want to make that motion, then we can take a vote on that, and that would kind of start that process, and we can explore that then.
Okay. Does that sound good, Greg, to capture it that way?
That sounds just fine. I didn't have to be site specific, but just to get the ball rolling and to think about it a little bit more would be just fine with me. I'm all for that. So I would make that motion, or I'll revise my motion to do that.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Go ahead, AJ.
Oh, I was saying I'll second that.
Okay.
All right, and I'll read off the roll call here to vote on that. Keith.
Thanks.
Approve.
All right. Greg made the motion. John. All right. Donna.
Approve.
All right. Scott's not here. Oops. Michael. Michael, you still there? Okay. Moving on. Sharon.
Approve.
Okay, that's it. Motion passes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on, I think we have another item that needs approval based on our conversation during the April meeting. We made some revisions and updates to the overall work program. That was also shared along with the minutes and agenda Has everyone had a chance to see those revisions to the work program? And if you had no corrections, additions, revisions to that, do we have a motion to approve that as they stand now? Hey, Scott.
Sorry, I was actually on another meeting, so sorry for my late arrival.
No problem. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sharon, I'd like to make that motion that we approve of the work program.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. Do we have
I'll
a second? AJ seconds.
All right, so I'll go through the roll call. Keith, how do you vote?
That was a yes.
Okay. John? It's a yes. Michael?
Yes.
Thank you. Donna?
I'm gonna have to apologize. I did not hear what the motion was for.
Oh, sure. That was a motion for approving the work program for the committee.
Oh, approved. Okay, my sorry.
No problem.
Scott? All right.
Yep.
Sharon?
Approve.
Okay. And that wraps it up. So the motion passes.
Great, thank you. Scott, just to catch you up, we're really just now starting our meeting portion of the meeting. We spent the first 35 minutes with Judy Wallace in her recognition and just hearing some comments from her and her history, kind of leading these efforts for North Carolina and Winston-Salem.
Great.
So we're just now diving in.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, now I've closed too many of my tabs. I think our next item on the agenda, after we've done the minutes and the work program, it was just to go through and see, based on the conversation at the April meeting, we each kind of raised our hand for various tasks or interest in these around the work program items. And so if anyone has updates to share around those, we're going to now open up for that conversation.
Actually, Sharon, the next item on the information item was the bicycle master plan priority recommendations item.
Thank you. Sorry, I said I closed too many tabs, and I have. So we'll back me up and go to that next. John had made that great suggestion at the last meeting that we review the bicycle plan and come prepared with priorities based on that. Do you guys prefer me to go through and call names, or do you want to just raise your hand and dive in? I can go either way. Have we had time to review that bike plan? Does anyone have any immediate priority items from that?
I'll go first.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I think we were supposed to basically give our top 9 or 10 or whatever, what we thought were the priorities for each of those corridors. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, should I just read off my list?
Sure.
Okay. The priorities I saw was the Northwest Connector, the Crosstown Connector, Renolda Link, Walltown Route, Robin Hood Road, Eastern Trace, and Louisville Connector. Those I thought were at least my top priorities.
Matthew, were you able to capture all of those?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Anyone else have some priorities from the bicycle master plan?
Yeah, I can mention it. I picked 6 of them that I thought made
Okay.
sense as top priorities. The Louisville connector, the Parkland South connector, Southern Fiddle, Robin Hood Road, Northwest connector, and the Renolda link.
Anyone else have specific priorities? Agree or disagree with those that have been mentioned so far?
Yeah, I think I had reviewed it before. I don't have a copy in front of me, but those all seemed reasonable, what's been mentioned so far. I'll have to go back through and look at the document because I looked at it early on. I just haven't reviewed it recently. So I'll let the group speak for that because I remember it looked all very reasonable when I was reviewing it before.
Kind of in the same boat, Scott. I'd have a really hard time picking any one over the others because they're all important. They all feel like they could be elevated as priorities.
I'm going to have to also say I haven't looked at it recently, and so I need to take another look through the plan. I think it was an early thing, but I have forgotten a little bit of the information.
Yeah, I guess potentially to take a step back, I don't want to take too much time, but Matthew or Sharon, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. When I went through it, there were several that have decent portions of them completed. So as I went through, some of them seem really important, but also kind of just thinking about triaging them. There are some that don't need that much of an investment or don't need much more to be completed and actually come to fruition. And in my mind, those kind of got a bump because it would be nice to have them completed and actually have the full corridor finished. Is that a reasonable way to think about this, or kind of how will these priorities kind of be used? I guess.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So I think that's a reasonable way to think about it. And that's the kind of, I think, thought process that really helps, with this discussion. Think about what factors are going into how you're prioritizing them. Is it, the fact that some of them are close to being completed as they are, and they just need a little bit of additional effort? Or are they serving an important transportation need? Are they connecting to a specific destination? Are they improving equity? Are they, what other factors are going into your consideration? I think those are all important factors and things that will, probably weigh in on the final decision. So, JJ, I think you're right on with that line of thinking. So I think that's the kind of discussion I think would be really helpful for making this determination.
Yeah, I know when I was going through the list, I was thinking, I tried to pick at least something from each of the wards so that no one ward is getting, all the attention, to try to spread the love around a little bit. So that was part of my thinking.
I think there's validity in that for sure. So we had suggested this as a to-do item between April and May, but we're not on a specific timeline in regards to the city. However, Matthew, I want to ask you, how, as you bubble this up as a suggestion from our committee, what steps do you need to take, and could we set a hard deadline for additional feedback from the group based on that?
Yeah, I think setting a hard deadline is a good idea, and then the process that we will go through is, we'll need to identify the priorities, the top 2 or 3 projects, I assume, and to be able to justify those. So I think that the reasoning behind why you all are making those selections is important. And then at that point we would need to identify funding and and get the city council approval to spend those funds on the designated projects. And then we would go through the design process. But I think setting a hard deadline and having some justification behind the recommendations would go a long way.
So my next question, just around process, is it within our capacity to be able to ask members to email their priorities to us by a certain date, and then I could write up a draft to present at the June meeting if we give another 2 weeks on review? Are we all okay with that? Okay. Now I have to look at a calendar. So I'm going to suggest that we email those for those who haven't had a chance to review, or if you want to narrow your list down any further, if we could get those by email by May. Can I say May 25th? That's a Tuesday. And you can send those directly to me if you want. I'll consolidate.
And just to be clear, this is in regard to the bicycle master plan that's right now on the city's website. Is that what we're looking at and considering?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that's the one, like on I guess it would be the 5th chapter where the facility vision and recommendations that we're going through and looking at.
Yes. And
okay. All right. Very good. I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at the right document. I had reviewed it before, but I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the correct document.
That was going to be, I had one question, and then Sharon, maybe on the date. I don't know what the date of our next, where we review the agenda. Is that, would we get that into prior to that call?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to look at too.
And the question that I had, and I just want to make sure I understand, because as I'm looking, I have a plan, but the recommendations piece, is that just inside the plan? And I just want to make sure I'm, like Scott, looking at the right thing.
Scott was correct. So the bicycle master plan is posted on the city website.
Yep.
And chapter 5, as you mentioned, that is the bicycle facility vision and recommendations. And within that chapter, there's an explanation and a map for each route, with pretty thorough description of that route and what it, areas it serves, and kind of the makeup of each of those routes, whether it's bike lane or trail or some other facility. So that you're correct. That's the chapter to look at.
Yeah, I have it open right now. That chapter is 59 pages, and breaks down each section with more specificity and detail.
And one thing I'll note about that is there are, for some of the routes, there are bicycle boulevard recommendations as well. So there's the primary route and then kind of a secondary route that essentially serves the same purpose, but maybe uses a different set of streets and uses a bicycle boulevard instead of, say, a bike lane. So if, I can certainly speak to that the next meeting or now, but that's one thing to keep in mind as well, is that there were the the primary routes, and then we also had a set of bicycle boulevard recommendations, and I want to make sure that the group is aware of those recommendations as well, because those could be beneficial routes.
So backing up, Keith, our meeting is the 26th, and so if we could get feedback from everyone on the 25th, we'll just revisit this as an agenda item at the June meeting with notation that these are what people recommended, and then let this group discuss and narrow those down to our official list during the June meeting. I'm not going to do that on my own. I'll open that up for you all to discuss and approve at the June meeting. Does that make sense? Any further questions about that? Or
I do have a question. What were you were mentioning something about the 25th of May? I missed something, obviously.
as for people who have not had a chance to review and present their priority recommendations, to send those by email by May 25th.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
But I thought you said there was something happening on that day, or there was something. Was there a meeting or something else going on that day, or the next day?
the next day, Keith and I meet with Matthew just to set the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
We would just collect those and add them to sort of as an addendum to the minutes to be presented to the group in June for
Okay.
discussion.
It's just an agenda preparation meeting. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Sorry about that.
And then I just have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we want to get, when we're evaluating this in terms of granularity, with regard to looking at kind of some projects within the overall project, or is it just to look at the kind of overall projects such as Northwest Connector? There are 4 kind of sub projects, or more than that even, sub projects within that. Do we want to give weight to some of those sub projects, or just kind of prioritize in our mind and in our presentation to the group just the overall, like Northwest Connector, not necessarily the Northwest Connector section 2? I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing when I'm evaluating this.
So I would recommend, providing some, getting into those subsections as well, and prioritizing those. If there are specific subsections within kind of the overall routes that you're particularly interested in, you think are particularly important, I would definitely note that. I think that's valuable for us to know.
Hey, Matthew, this is John. But ultimately, on those subsections, some of them are expensive, some of them are less expensive. So it's really going to depend on the funding, right?
That's correct. Yeah, there isn't a pot of funding just waiting for these projects.
Right.
So that should be part of your consideration too, as you're weighing these. Are all of your recommendations multi-million-dollar trails, or some of them kind of simple bike lane projects, or a combination of the two? So those are all factors to keep in mind as you're making your recommendation.
Right.
And we may end up with, these are the tier 1 things that can be done quickly. These are tier 2 stretch, and then these are kind of tier 3. Before we end our 3 years, we'd like to see these begin to have some action around. we'll have,
Sharon, do you want to just kind of define that? Like that's a great idea as opposed to just kind of 9. You know, we've considered it and come up with 9. Maybe we have 3 buckets.
mhm.
I think it might be a way to get one further step down the road.
Yeah, Matthew, is that feasible, like in regards to bike lanes, approving, creating, designating those from both a process point of view and a funding point of view? And if we're getting way too in the weeds, as I'm looking at the clock, this could be the lead point of our discussion in June. But is that a realistic way of breaking these down?
Yeah, I think it is, and maybe wait until you see the recommendations that people have, and then we can break them into those different categories. But I think that's a great approach because you're right. Some, the trails, for instance, may require a feasibility study and a request for federal funding, and there's potentially many more steps involved with those. And so each kind of bucket, as Keith mentioned, would require different steps in the process potentially. So yeah, I think that's a great way to break it out.
Okay. So as we consider or reconsider these, think of it in that way, and maybe even submit your recommendations like in that vein, and then that will guide our conversation in June as we narrow these down further, to make a formal recommendation from the committee on behalf of the committee, at the priorities. Thanks for bringing that up, Scott. I think for me too, that helps kind of break down the overwhelming nature of reviewing 59 pages of things that are all important. Okay, it is 10 o'clock, and I think we've had a full hour, and we have probably already outlined a full hour for June. Is there anything pressing that anyone would like to share or note before we close? I know we did not get into our discussion or updates around the work plan.
I'd like to make mention of the bike share being relaunched, and if people so inclined to get out there and check it out, and I just would be grateful for any feedback, good or bad, that they encounter when trying it. We've done a soft launch before we launch everything, and just trying to work out all the bugs. So.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And I've got that press release. I can send that to the committee members as we wrap up here to share. But I think that's really exciting. And remind me, I'm looking at it. Where are they right now? The first round.
So we have stations kind of sprinkled around downtown. Yeah, just various spots, and you can download it's a Movatic. So I believe it's just if you go do the Movatic app, and then I think the Flow bike share should pop up just because we're local. And then also yesterday I was able to get bikes out to Salem Lake, Reynolds Park, Quarry Park, and the Enterprise Center out on MLK. And there'll be more to come in the next few weeks.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know people are using them. I've seen them around Salem Lake, and so I know folks are out there using them. So that's really great. Thank you for all your hard work.
That's great.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you all for taking time to be here this morning and for all the great input and in sharing in the recognition of Judy. I think that was really meaningful for her, and hope you all have a great rest of the month. We'll talk again in June. Sound good?
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great afternoon. Rest of the day.